Do you think Navalny was killed or was it natural death? No, I mean, probably killed. Unless you think that people just naturally, unless you just think that he kind of did that. You know what I mean? He just kind of did that on his own.
Good afternoon. I'm heading off to East Palestine in a moment, but I wanted to say a few things this morning about.
Let's talk about Russia.
Alexei Navalny. You know, like millions of people around the world, I'm
going to say it real quick. Everyone in Russia, everyone involved in Russian politics is Vladimir Putin's guy. Okay? And just because this guy was not technically Vladimir Putin's guy does not automatically make him a good guy. Vladimir Putin, very bad guy. We all know that. Alexei Navalny, not a good guy either. Okay? Just anti-Vladimir Putin, which is why, of course, many people immediately jumped on the train of like being like, oh, Navalny, he's so, he's based. He hates Putin. He's like, and then you find out about his like personal opinions on xenophobia and racism, and you're like, oh, never mind. Never mind. But but regardless, there was a dude who made a documentary on him. I was supposed to have him on the stream to get a better insight into Navalny's. How the fuck do you know Putin's bad? How the fuck do I know Vladimir Putin is bad? Well, one, I'm from a country that has our own Vladimir Putin. His name is Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And across the board, not good, okay? Not good at all. So that's number one. Number two, I don't know, think about all of the things that Vladimir Putin has done in his rise to power, okay? Whether it be invading neighboring countries like Ukraine or aligning himself with or engaging in brutal actions in his foreign policy in general. He's done some cool shit like ride horses shirtless. That much is true. Or bring forward phenomenal American talent like Steven Seagal to make them ambassadors. Okay, but overall, yeah, Chechnya, I mean, there's a lot of assassinations, so much good stuff overall, but some actually good stuff like Steven Seagal. So who's to say if he's really a bad guy at all? Let's continue. Let's hear what he had to say about Navalny, though.
Both not surprised and outraged by the news. Reported death of Alexei Navalny. He bravely stood up.
Yeah, I love when people go, what do you think about Vladimir Putin? What do you think about Vladimir Putin being, how do you know he's a bad guy? We're literally watching like his I guess, main opposition that is like outside of the sphere of Putin's influence, partially because he was most likely backed by American interests in general. That one guy who just died. So I wonder how that happened. I mean, this Putin guy.
To the corruption, the violence, and all the bad things that the Putin government was doing. In response, Putin had him poisoned. He had him arrested. He had him prosecuted for fabricated crimes. He sentenced him to prison. He was held in isolation. Even all that didn't stop him from calling out Putin's lies. Even in prison, he was a powerful voice for the truth, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. And he could have lived safely in exile after the assassination attempt on him in 2020, which nearly killed him, I might add. But he was traveling outside the country at the time. Instead, he returned to Russia.
Big L. Big mistake, by the way. Don't do that.
Russia, knowing he'd likely be imprisoned or even killed if he continued his work. But he did it anyway because he believed so deeply in his country, in Russia. Reports of his death, if they're true, and I have no reason to believe they're not, Russian authorities are going to tell their own story. But make no mistake, Putin is responsible for Navalny's death. Putin.
I mean, this part is like true on every front. Even if he died to natural causes, which very unlikely, even though the timing of it is suspicious leading up to like an election, right? Technically, he is at the responsibility of the state. He's in prison. If you die in prison, the state fucked up, no matter what. Okay? So that part is 100% true, regardless.
Is responsible. What has happened to Navalny is yet more proof of Putin's brutality.
Yeah, while there's no like immediate motive, I guess, while there's no immediate motive, I do still believe that, you know, come on.
No one should be fooled. Not in Russia, not at home, not anywhere in the world. Putin does not only target his citizens of other countries, as we've seen what's going on in Ukraine.
There's no motive in the sense that he's already in prison and he already had been like very publicly poisoned by Putin. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. Like, there's obviously a motive, like a broader motive, but it's more like there's already like the obvious motive, right? It just, I think it's more so like I guess it brings up additional political complications for him. I don't really know. I don't really know if that translates to like real issues domestically at all. Anyway, let's continue.
Right now, he also inflicts terrible crimes on his own people. And as people across Russia and around the world are mourning Navalny.
Keep that same energy for Epstein. I think you're lost here if you don't think that I have the exact same energy for Epstein. Like almost identical, unless you're talking about just like Joe Biden saying these things, because yes, Epstein was, oh, you meant Biden. Okay. Because Jeffrey Epstein's death was also incredibly suspicious. And not only that, but also Jeffrey Epstein's death was also incredibly suspicious, but he also died in federal prison under very suspicious circumstances. So yes, I still maintain the position that he did not kill himself, but instead absolutely was assassinated by the federal government. And the same principle stands for Jeffrey Epstein. He is supposed to be cared for by the fucking state. Okay? He's supposed to be cared for by the state. He died under Trump. Yes, he died under Trump. And Bill Barr is the primary responsible party in this circumstance as the head of the DOJ. And not only that, but also, like it is worthy of an investigation. If there wasn't actual bipartisan support on things of that nature, in my opinion, considering that he was also most likely an asset for the State Department.
Today, because he was so many things that Putin was not. He was brave. He was principled. He was dedicated to building a Russia where the rule of law existed and where it applied to everybody. Navalny believed in that Russia.
What is this fish?
He knew it was a cause worth fighting for, and obviously even dying for. This tragedy reminds us of the stakes of this moment. We have to provide the funding so Ukraine can keep defending itself against Putin's vicious onslaughts and war crimes. You know, there was a bipartisan Senate vote that passed overwhelmingly in the United States Senate to fund Ukraine. Now, as I've said before, and I mean this in a literal sense, history is watching. History is watching the House of Representatives. The failure to support Ukraine at this critical moment will never be forgotten. It's going to go down in the pages of history. It really is. It's consequential. And the clock is ticking. And this has to happen. We have to help now. You know, we have to realize what we're dealing with Putin. All of us should reject the dangerous statements made by the previous president that invited Russia to invade our NATO allies if they weren't paying up. He said if an ally did not pay their dues, he'd encourage Russia to, quote, do whatever the hell they want.
My controversial opinion on this, which, oh my God, I probably should not have a controversial opinion on this, is that the like, it wasn't, I mean, I'll wait for obviously an investigation, even though, like, come on, it's not going to be a real one. We'll probably never know, right? It's almost impossible to get fucking real information on things such as this, regardless. Wait, hold on 1 second. I gotta bring in. I'm gonna bring in my guest in a second. Actually, you know what? Let me do that real quick because we have a Ukraine expert that I will have coming on because we're going to be talking about like Ukraine updates as well. Where is it? What is your Discord? Okay. Let's hear the rest of Brandon. Let's have Brandon play us out.
He and Russia face.
That was 3 years ago. In the meantime, they faced a hell of a lot of consequences. They've lost and/or had wounded over 350,000 Russian soldiers. They've made them in a position where they've been subjected to great sanctions across the board, and we're contemplating what else could be done. But what we were talking about at the time, there were no actions being taken against Russia. And that's, look, all that's transpired since then.
Can you say whether you're looking at increasing sanctions on Russia right now?
We're looking at a whole number of options. That's all I'll say right now.
Is there anything you can do to get ammunition to the Ukrainians without a supplemental from Congress?
No, but it's about time they step up, don't you think? Instead of going on a 2-week vacation. 2 weeks. They're walking away. 2 weeks. What are they thinking? My God, this is bizarre. And it's just reinforcing all the concern and almost, I won't say panic, but real concern about the United States being a reliable ally. This is outrageous.
Are you more confident now that you'll get the Ukraine aid, given what's happened today?
Well, I hope to God it helps. But I mean, the idea we need anything more to get the Ukraine aid. I mean, this is, in light of a former president's statement that saying Russia, if they haven't paid their dues to us, go get them. Come on. What are these guys doing? What are they doing?
Sir, how concerned are you about the anti-satellite capability that Russia is developing, and what is your administration planning to do in response?
First of all, there is no nuclear threat to the people of America or anywhere else in the world with what Russia is doing at the moment, number one. Number two, anything that they're doing or they will do relates to satellites and space and damaging those satellites potentially. Number three, there is no evidence that they...
I love this guy having to describe nuclear satellites in space. It's like my favorite thing is just watching an 800-year-old man have to describe this thing now.
They have made a decision to go forward with doing anything in space either. So what we found out, there was a capacity to launch a system into space that could theoretically do something that was damaging. Hadn't happened yet, and my hope is it will not.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'll take one more.
Thank you, Mr. President. Switching gears for a moment, have the Israelis presented a credible evacuation plan for the nearly 1.5 million displaced Palestinians sheltering in Rafah? And what would the consequences be for Israel if they move ahead with a full-scale ground invasion without clear measures to protect civilians there?
Well, first of all, I've had extensive conversations with the Prime Minister of Israel over the last several days, almost an hour each. And I've made the case, and I feel very strongly about it, that there has to be a temporary ceasefire to get the prisoners out, to get the hostages out. And that is underway. I'm still hopeful that that can be done. And in the meantime, I don't anticipate, I'm hoping that the Israelis will not make any massive land invasion.
Yeah. Wait, what? I'm sorry, what? Bro, does he know? Does he know? Does he know what's going on? Bro thinks it's October 6th, I think. His brain is stuck on October 6th.
In the meantime. So it's my expectation that's not.
It was in reference to Rafah. I think he's, at this point, he's like, I really hope the Israelis don't do a land invasion into Sinai, you know? It's just, who knows, Jack?
Not going to happen. There has to be a ceasefire temporarily to get those hostages. By the way, we're in a situation where there are American hostages.
You mean southern Palestine? First of all, dog, even if he says like into Rafah, the fuck's he talking about? It's already like they're bombing the shit out of Rafah. And not only that, but they also directly invaded the last large southern Gaza hospital.
American citizens are being held hostage. It's not just Israelis, it's American hostages as well. And, my hope and expectation is that we'll get this hostage deal. We'll bring the Americans home, and the deal is being negotiated now, and we're going to see where it takes us.
Anyway, speaking of Israel shit, here's another cool thing that the New York Times did. I want to watch the full video, but I want to start off with this one thing that I saw that I, of course, retweeted. It's completely insane. Breaking. Oh, shit. I didn't even realize this. Breaking. Israel carried out covert attacks on 2 major gas pipelines inside of Iran this week. 2 Western officials and a military strategist affiliated with Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps says 2 covert major gas pipelines inside Iran this week were disrupting the flow of heat and cooking gas to provinces with millions of people, according to 2 Western officials and a military strategist affiliated with Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. The strikes represent a notable shift in the shadow war that Israel and Iran have been waging by air, land, and sea and cyber attack for years. Endgame World War III. That's cool, man. That's cool. What is this? This part wasn't in the video you watched.
All of us should reject the dangerous statements made by the previous president that invited Russia to invade our NATO allies if they weren't paying up. He said if an ally did not pay their dues, he'd encourage Russia to, quote, do whatever the hell they want. I guess I should clear my mind here a little bit and not say what I'm really thinking. But
holy fuck. Do you think Navalny was killed or was it natural death? No, I mean, probably killed. Unless you think that people just naturally, unless you just think that he kind of did that. You know what I mean? He just kind of did that on his own. Yeah, Governor Hochul said some insane shit as well. We'll cover that in a second. But I actually think it's based, and I agree with it for reasons that maybe you know of already, or maybe you don't know. But I'm always and forever will be in favor of invading Canada.